How are you, Deepak?
I'm exceedingly well, thank you.
Nice to see everybody.
Thank you, Rajni ji. Our speaker is there, Ms. Renu Karnan. And Rapol. Okay. Anyhow, dear members, very, very
I'd like
warm
to say a
welcome
word
to the
to
1,000.
To Mrs. Renu, please.
Ji,
Renu ji,
Yes.
it's such a pleasure to bank with HDFC. We've had such an amazing experience. And I'd like to thank each and every staff member of yours. They've been so cooperative, and honestly, I have
thank
all
you.
my... And as a matter of fact, my nephew is working with your bank, Ankit Sood. Ankit Sood.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And
in Delhi?
In Delhi. He's based out of Delhi.
Oh,
and
okay.
recently we were having some issues with our Rotary account and all that. He just went out of his way to help us out.
Yes,
And
he's wonderful.
He's a wonderful.
Yeah.
Ankit was of great help actually, Renu ji. He was phenomenal.
Very good. I just have one clarification. I work for the parent of HDFC Bank.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
I do serve on their board as a director, but I think I will pass the credit to them, definitely.
Please do that. Thank you so much. Pleasure having you with us today.
But what I hear is that you have an open room. Anybody can just walk into you and take your advice.
Yes.
That's
phenomenal.
And Renu, I'm a Sood too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
अच्छा, तो फिर तो बाद में मिलके पता करना चाहिए, कहीं ना कहीं कुछ होगा जो.
Are you from Himachal?
No.
Okay.
We are from Moga.
Okay.
Yeah, we're from Moga. Yeah.
Great.
True.
And I would have liked you to meet Sita also. I don't see her. Sita Bethlingham. She's a very senior member and the attorney.
I'm very much here, Madam President.
So Sita ji, Mrs. Renu Karnan, like to especially thank you to her. Renu ji, she's a very well-known attorney and been with the club for many years as the president.
Okay. All right.
As
wonderful.
She was the first lady president to be in our club.
Okay. All right.
Welcome to the club. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Sheila ji.
Hi, Aditya. Hi, Tanudi.
Hi, hello. How are you?
Very nice. Very good.
Hi, Aditya. Hi, Tanu.
Hi.
It's not a stand for this.
So it's very nice to chit chat. I think I have to begin.
Yes, I think it's time to begin.
Well, dear members, welcome to our 1,275th meeting.
Wow.
Being called to order. I would like the four-way test to be. Is Tanu there?
I'm there.
Okay, please, would you kindly request you to say the four-way test?
The four-way test is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it bring goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you so much. Now the announcement for the birthdays. 25th September is our past president, very senior Rotarian Ajay Verma ji's birthday, which is today, and happy birthday Ajay ji, and I think all our members have already wished him in the morning. And tomorrow, 26th, is past president Rotarian Sunita Trivedi ji's, 27th Rotarian Meena Sethi's, 1st October past president Rotarian Vivek Kataria ji, and 2nd Rotarian Sonal Bansal, 4th Rotarian Roma Prasad ji, and 8th October Rotarian Prashant Rana Day. No anniversaries in the month of October. Thank you. Now coming to the Rotary information. Important, it gives one a lot of pleasure. Inauguration of the Rotary Club of Delhi Garden City Singer Vocational Center. Pleased to share with the members that on the 17th of September, we opened our third RCDGC Singer Vocational Center at Hindu Refugee Colony, Majlis Park, in association with the Delhi Riding Club Foundation. We are thankful to our President-elect, Rotarian Ashok Sharma ji, who very kindly donated 50% of the amount for the 20 sewing machines required for this vocational center. We are also thankful to Rotarian Rajni Suji for donating fabric, threads, etc., and her very dedicated involvement. Rotarian Meena Sethi ji for donating cutting materials and accessories. Rotarian Manorma Bhogya ji for donating 2 steel cupboards, and to our past president, Rotarian Sandeep Khanna ji, for his timely massive support for organizing the machines at a great discount from the Singer company. Thank you, Sandeep ji. This vocational center will be a great success for the poor refugee ladies, and their children will be able to work, earn their livelihood, and sustain themselves. It was a great team effort by everyone in the club. And actually, our thanks also go to Rajiv, our club secretary, who in his very quiet, silent, dedicated manner got the machine, got the stools, the desks, the cutting tables and cupboards and whatnot, and all properly arranged well in time for the inauguration. Thank you, Rajiv. The next is Project Mukhi. I'm pleased to share with members.
I'm happy to be part of this and joint launch function. And I'm wishing great success in the sustainable project enabling true empowerment for communities. As I've mentioned, global crises are increasingly complex and multidimensional
चाहे 3-व्हीलर लें, वो सबकी व्यवस्था की आज उन्हें उनका अधिकार भी मिले। केवल वही नहीं, ये जो आप सभागार देख रहे हैं, ये वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग का सभागार है। तो मैं क्षमा चाहता हूँ, रोटरी क्लब वाले कहेंगे मैं सिलाई मशीन लेके दिखा दिया, फिर मेरा नाम भी नहीं बोला। तो मैं रोटरी क्लब की सेवा जानता हूँ। रोजगार मेला है आज रोटरी क्लब की तरफ से अभी अनाउंस होगा। रोटरी क्लब हमारी संस्था से वो ट्रेनिंग की काम करेगी। सिंगर भी इसमें एक पार्टनर है। एक मैसेज है कि दिल्ली की हर यूपी में ऐसा कार्य होना चाहिए। बहुत कुछ है लिखने को।
Coming next to Project Surajmukhi. I'm pleased to share with the members under Project Surajmukhi, we held series of 13 camps with Chetanalaya and NGO at different locations and screened 965 people. With the help of these camps, we are able to educate and counsel the community about hepatitis C and how to keep themselves safe. Our thanks goes to our immediate past president, Vibhuti Sharma, the team from the Liver Care Foundation for organizing these camps in these trying times. Next is the toilet work at Chittaranjan Park School. I'm pleased to share with the members that under the CSR funds from Hughes, the work for upgrading of the toilet block on the first floor of STMC School, CR Park, is coming along very well and is expected to be completed by first week of October. Polio NID. On 20th September, it was the Polio National Immunization Day. Booths allotted to us were Hamid Polyclinic, Batla House, Lion Hospital, Khazirabad. One notices from the pictures that Hamid seems to have given a real makeover to his clinic. Very nice pictures. Then comes the virtual fellowship. On 16th September, we held a virtual fellowship and invited the famous comedian, Mr. Anubhav Pal. Members enjoyed the fun-filled evening full of humor. Thank you. Pragyan, our secretary, over to Pragyan.
Thank you, Nava ma'am. Yeah, we start off to commemorate Gandhi Jayanti on the 2nd of October with a hygiene awareness camp in association with IRRI under our project Unnayana, which is for the kids and women of the Majlis Park refugee camp, which is in North Delhi. On the 9th, we have a very interesting, another interesting rather speaker meeting where we have Ramesh Sharma, who's a film producer and a director, having won several awards, including the Indira Gandhi Award for Best Debut Director, an award in the non-feature film animation category, and also the Emmy Award for Outstanding Investigative Journalism. On the 23rd, we have our club assembly, where all our club members meet and discuss the club affairs. And on the 31st October and the 1st of October, 31st of September and the 1st of October.
No. 31st of
Sorry,
October.
31st of October and the 1st of November. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Deepakji. We have the annual debate, which is for the first time going international. And we hold that along with Hansraj, Kulachi Hansraj School. And this year, we have also tied it up with Awaz Foundation. And I'm really grateful to our past president, Deepak Verma-ji, who's taken amazing amount of pain to collate and get this going. Thank you so much. Over to Nabha, ma'am.
Thank you, Prajan. Thank you for your announcements. Okay, today we are privileged to have with us Mr. Renu Karnad, Managing Director of HDFC Limited, address our club. Renuji joined the organization in 1978. She has been serving on the board of directors of the company since September 2012. Well, and now I would like to actually request our past president, Rotarian Deepakji Verma-ji, the managing director and CEO of Aviva Life Insurance, and earlier the director of Hindustan Times. He's also the president of the Debating Society of India, to please kindly introduce the speaker to our members. Thank you.
Thank you, Sohinder-ji. Thank you very much. Dear fellow Rotarians, I am indeed greatly privileged to be able to introduce to you this evening Mrs. Renu Karnad. Renu ji is the Managing Director of the Housing Development Finance Corporation of India, which is India's largest by a country mile housing company, and is also among the great success stories in housing finance worldwide. HDFC is also the parent of HDFC Bank, and the two together constitute one of the brightest jewels in the firmament of Indian industry. They are wonderful organizations, and they have been taken to where they are by the work done by people like Renu ji. Renu ji has won numerous awards. She's been categorized as being among the most powerful women in Indian business on a number of occasions, and is a regular feature on many panels, many discussion seminars across the country. She is naturally a director of HDFC. She's also a director of the bank. And in addition to that, she's a director of various premier organizations, including ABB, that's Asia Brown Boveri, the well-known pharmaceutical company, GlaxoSmithKline Beecham, GlaxoSmithKline, Maruti Suzuki, and the Bangalore International Airport Limited. She has a very impressive list of academic credentials. She has an MA in economics from Delhi University. She is a law graduate from Bombay University, and she has been a Pavin Fellow at Princeton University's Woodrow Wilson School of International Affairs. Woodrow Wilson, as some of you may remember, was the American president who steered America through the course of the First World War, and in fact, conceptualized the League of Nations. Princeton University, of course, is an incredibly successful organization. Renu ji, you have a reputation for being a great diplomat, a wonderful professional, a very, very strong people's person. We're all agog waiting to listen to you. Over to you, ma'am. What happened?
She has to be unmuted.
You have to unmute her, yeah.
Unmute her.
Yeah. Okay, now are you okay?
Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, Deepakji, thank you so much for that introduction. I'm not sure how much I deserve it, but anyway, thanks a lot. Thank you so much for inviting me today, Sohinderji. But I was just thinking at 7:15 on a Friday evening, I'm not sure how interested you are in this topic, where, you know, we are talking about the economy and housing. But Madam Sohinderji asked me to talk about that. And as you all know, no one can say no to her, right? So I promise I will not keep you too far for too long away from our sundowners. And so I begin. So as we all know, it's been quite a year. It's been quite a terrible year. And we have really never witnessed, many of us, most of us who are alive today, have never witnessed such unprecedented events, and the ramifications are social, political, and on every possible platform. I think the stringent lockdown was needed. It was the need of the hour. And from late March to mid-May, it literally brought everything. Maybe we can ask the gentleman to mute himself. I wonder who it is.
It's Deepak.
Okay. Rajiv, please mute everybody except Renu, ma'am.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. So as we all know, and I think from March to mid-May, the economy was actually at a standstill. If you look at the National Statistical Organization, they've pegged our GDP for that quarter at a minus 23.9%. I think experts in various bodies have said that this year we shall see a contraction of close to 14%. I think the GDP forecast for this year, at the best, at the most aggressive numbers, are talking about a minus 6 or a minus 6.4. One of the reasons for that also is that a substantial contribution to our economy, as we all know, comes from the informal sector. And unfortunately, the informal sector was the most hurt, unlike what is happening in some of the other Western countries during the lockdown. You know, state-sponsored schemes like the Manrega came to a standstill. Business activities completely, stalled, forcing labor to migrate back to their hometowns. And when it was relaxed, almost all sectors, construction, manufacturing, these were really, really badly hit. Tourism, as we all know, hospitality, restaurants, everything was hurt. I think in the initial phase, at least the rural, part of the economy was safe. Even this year, I think if you look at how our GDP will grow, most probably agriculture is going to grow at a little over 3% and contribute to our GDP. In the initial phases, the rural economy was still healthy. People were still okay. People were not getting sick. But with the migration and all the people going back, one is really worried about what's going to happen there, because there, even the health facilities are not available. The health infrastructure there is so bad. So I think also just now, rural economy had some earnings. With so many of our people going back, even the earning per capita is most probably going to come back. So I think UNCTAD has also said that this is going to be one of the worst years and the deepest recession. And still, the pandemic is still not over. We really don't know where it's going to be. Having said that, there are some reports. People say that by 2021 in India, we should see some rebound. And, though the loss of income that has happened, I think, during these days is not ever going to come back. As you all know, the unlock is now complete, is nearly complete. But having said that, Bill Gates has very nicely, aptly put it in one of his blogs, that we have come back to being semi-normal with a very heightened awareness of hygiene, heightened awareness of self-preservation, actually reaching levels of paranoia, where people are so suspicious of everyone. It's a different sort of caste system that has come in. people talk about what sort of a recovery will it be. I think all sort of alphabets are there, V, U, W, O. I think my 2 bits on the recovery bit, as I see, since the number of infections being reported are yet to flatten, I personally think it'll be more like a U-shaped recovery. It's more a caution, wait, watch. No one is investing. That's the saddest part. People are only doing essential activities. There's postponement of non-essential activities, and more than that, of investment. And I think that is something that keeps us very worried. I think it'll most probably be you. A lot of people who are optimistic talk of we. But having said that, I think the joker in the pack, the unknown in the pack, really is whether we are going to have a second wave. If a second wave does happen, then God knows what, whether it'll be a W or maybe even a L for that matter. So I think we should all wear masks. All of us are sitting at home, so we are fine. And we should keep our social distancing, follow all the norms that we are told and all the health people tell us to do. I think that's so important, not only for our health, but honestly for our wealth too. And I think that's really, really important. I think, how are we going to recover? That's a question that everybody asks. I think the onus of that really lies with the government. I do not see private sector coming in and investing for some time to come. I think the government will have to formulate policies, give incentives to various sectors, that have been affected, particularly the travel and the tourism sector, create more employment opportunities and spur demand. I think government has to increase their spend on infrastructure. That is the only place where unskilled labor can be gainfully employed in urban areas. Labor incentive industries like real estate, automobiles, which have so many backward and forward linkages, are the ones that will really take the pressure off the rural economy and stop further deterioration of income levels in rural India. If you just take housing, जब आप एक घर बनाते हो, there are 268 different industries that can get affected when you build a house. The ply jo banata hai, page jo hai, literally, if you count the number of industries that are, are touched by housing, it is as close to 268 industries. So the government needs to do something to bring real estate and especially housing back. Also, when a person owns a house, there's a sense of security. There's a sense of, feeling of belonging. Even from a very social point of view, you'll see even the lumpen element, where they have a house, they never create any dangas. The dangas only happen away from where they live. So housing as a means to increase jobs is something very important, along with, as I said, even automobiles, because a lot of it is still very manual. I think a lot of the larger companies are looking at reducing expenses, and that is in itself a catch-22. You need to reduce expenses. So how do you do it? The first thing is labor. The first thing is your people. Therefore, it is becoming very important, again, that the government come up with schemes where SMEs and the small MSMEs, which really form most of our urban jobs that are created, which are the small traders and the small enterprises, that they do something to ensure them to keep afloat, to ensure them actually to come back, not even keep afloat. So they have done a few things. I think the government has acted, and one can't say they haven't. Particularly, for example, in my sector or in the banking sector, they gave a moratorium. अगर आपने लोन लिया था और आपको दिक्कत हो रही है, आपको पहले 3 महीने और उसके बाद में 6 महीने के लिए छुट्टी दी थी, that you do not have to pay the installments. So that really helped to a lot of people who immediately realized that, they don't have jobs, but how do they pay their business loans? How do they pay their housing loans? How do they pay, where do they have to pay the children's fees? So what do you do? I think, so they did that. They are also, I think there's another worry is inflation. Inflation is going up. What you call the consumer price index, that has gone up to about 6%. Also, one of the reasons for that was that during this period, the total supply chain that was there in the system was completely disrupted. Actually, there was no supply chain. And as usual, you always have people in the economy who make use of that. So we saw prices go up. But I think these are things for a short while. Once things come back to normalcy, the estimation by some of the people who are economists are that by Q4, our consumer price index should come back to a 4%. Just talking for a few minutes on our sector, gloom and doom at one end, but not so bad at the other end. We are seeing in my sector in particular, people are calling, people are looking for homes. I think people think it is the best time to go and invest in a property. And we are seeing a lot of interest coming back. Though there is some change, the sort of loans that we are doing, they're no more, or the sort of properties that are selling are no longer the high-end properties. These properties that are selling are the mid-income properties, the mid-value properties. Second-tier cities and third-tier cities continue to do well because they were slightly less hit. Of course, now I believe all the Ludhianas and the second-tier cities are catching up, but still second and third-tier cities were less hit. So we are seeing properties which are less than 75 lakhs actually do very well in metros. Also, as you know, a house is it's a high involvement project. It's a product that you have there for your lifetime. You invest in it. And I think people are seeing that there is an opportunity to do that. Interest rates, believe me, are the lowest. I can see from the audience here that many of you may not be interested in buying homes, but there'll be family and children. It is really the right time to do so because interest rates have never been so low. Property prices are much under control. You go to a builder with a checkbook. He's willing to talk to you. He's willing to bring his costs down. And more than anything else, you're seeing in Maharashtra and all, they've brought stamp duty down to 2%. I'm sure Delhi and the other states will also follow because that's one way of generating employment, one way of getting the country back to normal. The counterintuitive thing is that houses which are ready, they haven't come down because people are now wanting, the trust in a under construction property has completely gone. The trust in a builder is gone. If the house is ready, they can see it, people are willing to go and put the money in. Also during the last 2 years, very few new projects have been announced. So I think they have been really ready properties are quite stagnant. We have not seen any correction in those. I think basically I think these are some of the things that I thought I'd share with you. There are opportunities today in sectors, particularly for people, if you know of anyone, where incomes are below 1.5 lakhs per month and homes are less than 60 square meters, the subsidies that are available from the government, I think all of you here should encourage people within your sphere of influence to go for this subsidy. They give a subsidy of 2.5 lakhs on any home. So the government subsidies are working, government subsidies are reaching. And I think it is something that the government has hidden very well, but that is one thing that together with the interest rates, the subsidies, etc., if there is anyone who is in that income level of less than 150,000 a month, I think you must advise them to do that. I think these are the few things that I wanted to tell you. The jury is still out as to how and when India is going to come out of this pandemic, but I'm very, very hopeful. I've always been a huge optimist. If you look at our statistics, the demographics of India, you see 65% of our people now are less than 35 years of age. They are going to come into this working, the young youth are going to be looking for jobs. They'll be looking for, all the consumer items that you're looking at. They'll be looking for cars, they'll be looking for homes, they'll be looking for refrigerators. And it's a question of just a few months till the economy comes back. I'm an eternal optimist on the Indian economy and more so on the Indian entrepreneur and on the Indian public, that we are going to see things come back to normal. So if there's any questions, I'd love to answer. It's a very short talk. I don't think you'll be interested in too many high level statistics, but any questions, anything, I'd be a pleasure to answer.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, please do.
Renuji? Yeah.
Anji.
So, I'm Sunita, and I basically wanted to ask then, in such times, what should one invest in, or where should one, keep whatever savings and all? I'll tell you why I'm asking this, because I had, my bank is HDFC, and I have invested in the mutual bonds and, the mutual portfolio. So, but then I have suffered a major loss. And then when I speak with the public relations people at the bank, and I told them that once we come even, then maybe I will take out much of the money and put it. And this is when I'm talking as a pensioner. I'm a pensioner, from the government of India. So it's not as if that I have a lot of money. So I thought that, I could put them in, say, fixed deposits, something safe. There is no risk involved, and long-term savings. But then he was telling me, no, you never know, even that may not, give you any return. So things like that. I mean, like when here we talk about the economy, we are looking forward to the economy going up, at least getting stable. And here, like you really don't know where to put in your investments, when that is what, as you yourself are saying, that, right now we need investments, we need the circulation of money in the market.
So on the side, when I joined my job, my first boss told me, never do 3 things in life, Renu. Never tell anybody who to marry, never advise anybody what job to take, and never advise anybody where to put their money. Having said that, I will not listen to him, and I will say, see, I think these are unusual times, and it is good to be cautious. Mutual funds have had such a great run, and we run a mutual fund ourselves, but it's not that all mutual funds are going to be bad. I think if I were you and I had to say something, I would say you must keep at least 1/3 of all your money in fixed deposits and in banks, because when you need the money, that's the only place you can get it overnight. So that's very, very important. I have great hope on the equity market of India, but I would still say you should put it into good, you might get less returns, but into good companies which are well managed. It is so important not to look for a quick buck. A quick buck is where you get into trouble. So you should, you should read the balance sheet, you should understand who the directors are, you should look at who, and ma'am, if somebody is giving you a rate which is much more than what is in the market, I think the smell test should tell you there's something wrong, So I think you should look at the company, the capital markets. You should put in some amount of your money, maybe 20%. I wouldn't say, since you said you're a pensioner, but as a pensioner, I would say a 30-20 sort of a thing is good, where you can, do something with your money or be a little aggressive with your money. But since you mentioned you're a pensioner, I think I would change my mind and say you should put 50% in a good bank. Again, which bank? The bank should be, as I said, your thumb rule should be, अगर सब लोग मुझे 5% दे रहे हैं, ये मुझे 10%, 7% दे रहा है, क्यों? And the sad part is that people are literate, and yet they get taken in by the person who's advising you. You must always remember, and I also am part of a bank, so but when the person is advising you, take his advice, but do what you think is right, because that person actually has some other agenda in mind. Banks, it's not that he's negative, it's not that he's misguiding you, but there is some bit of, vested interest in it. So I think, according to me, that is how you should really look at your money. But I would say that right now, I wouldn't say put it in some of the very small companies and the MSME sectors. If you ever want to do that, you have to best is to, again, coming back to, I think, gold. I think gold is forever an asset that you should put in some money at least in it. Yes. We make the jewelry and wear it and tell the husband, let's put it in gold. I think that's the best way to do it. So
That's a true Andhra speaking, I guess.
Two? Sorry?
She's from Andhra.
Acha, oh, okay. Who's the other Andhraite?
No.
Acha. Oh, not me. Now, are you talking about me?
No.
Acha, okay. Yeah.
So can I just ask the next question if you don't mind?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Deepika, you go.
Hi,
ladies
Dr.
first.
Gulati and Renu. Hi, good to see you.
Hi, Renu ma'am.
Yeah,
So
please.
nice.
Hi.
It was
Good, very nice, informative talk, and good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah, Renu ma'am. So it's very, very informative. Thank you. But then I know that many of I try to see the GDP and try to invest in some stocks and all. But is there any small piece of advice you can give us? I know that the stockbrokers, they really follow the graph of the companies and everything on a daily basis and then analyze which is the best company for you to invest, and they advise investors like us. And then we go upon their whatever they tell us and we try to invest. But is there any small tip which you can give us what you need to really see in a company's profile or when you try to invest in that company?
You should definitely see their past 2-3 years performance.
Yeah.
You should see, one of the most important things is to see what sector they are in. Is it a stable sector? Sectors like food, sectors like, pharmacies, sector like chemicals, you must make sure. See, some of these new sectors, you can really make huge money or you can lose it all. I mean, everybody was very gung-ho on IT. Yeah, maybe you could be very lucky about it. But the good old sectors where to live, we need food, to live, we need clothes. Those sort of sectors are the ones that I think you should look at. But ma'am, the most thing, you need to really do is at least look at the 2 years balance sheets, see how not only the profits, but how the top line is moved, because profits can come for various different reasons. You can sell an asset and you can see profits, So see how has the company's business been growing? Very important to see whether, there are no issues, tax issues and some other issues. I can't talk about it very openly, but you need to see all that. And you need to see who are the board of directors. I think that makes a big difference. Yeah,
if I can just ask the next question. Thank you so much. It was a lovely lecture and it was nice to know that you are a law graduate. So my first question, I'm a lawyer myself, so
not practicing, complicated mat pooch lena.
No, not at all. The entire housing sector has now got regulated by the RERA. And as you mentioned, the real estate sector contributes to various other sectors on the industry in a great way. But why is it that still, even till date, it has not got an industry status as such? Question one. The question two is, why don't we see not too much of movement in the real estate investment trust? I believe. Yeah, so these are the two questions actually.
See, on the first bit, it is for some reason, the definition of the government, when they look at housing and look at real estate, actually housing more than real estate, townships and all, some of those have an industry status, by the way. Housing doesn't have an industry status because their definition of an industry status is it an economic good? Will it create wealth? No, a house doesn't create wealth. So that is why they don't give it, because we've been fighting for it, for an industry status. They have recently given townships as an industry status, but not an individual, because their thought process is it's not an economic activity. That's one thing. On the REITs bit, are you going to see REITs come in? We already have 2 very good REITs. The Raheja REIT that was listed in Blackstone has done extremely well. The first REIT, of course, was the Bangalore guy along with Blackstone also. They haven't done too badly, but the REIT that they did recently has done very well. And I think there are a couple of more in the coming, I think Brookfields, which is this large Canadian, company, which is investing hugely into India, is coming up with the next REIT. Pragya, the reason it took so long was there were the tax issues of pass-through income. What was the income going to be taxed at 2 points in time? Then the yields didn't make sense. you know. So that is why it took long. And now it's happened. And people are very happy about it. It's still that the Indian consumer needs to understand it as a product. They need to understand, you know, that how it's going to work. Because you're basically getting a small piece of a property or for rental stream. And, you know, but you must also understand what are the pitfalls there. But I think it will become, in the next 5-10 years, we will see some large REITs in India, backed by good names, backed by good people.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I wanted to ask a question. Can I ask that? My name is J.K. Jain.
Hanji.
I wanted to understand that there is a lot of press talk which says that the financial sector, which is banks and NBFCs, etc., will get into a lot of pressures, which is creating doubt even for depositing money with banks and NBFCs and HDFCs, etc. I mean, I'm not saying HDFC.
It's okay, that's fine.
But I'm talking about housing finance companies, not HDFC per se. So there is general doubt which is getting created with respect to stability and strength of the financial sector going forward. What is your view on that? How is it real? Is it really likely to happen, or is it just a press talk?
If you're talking about banks and you're talking, see, it's certain the financial sector is under stress. Everybody knows that. You know, companies are not able to pay because companies have not been able to earn. That's why, Mr. Jain, this whole thing of restructuring that the government has come up with. The government has said, one time we allow you to do what you have to the banks to be able to, and it's also good for the banks. Otherwise, the banks will have a huge amount of NPAs, right? More than that, it's also good for the industry because you don't want the industry to close either. You know, whatever you say, it might be a rogue borrower or a rogue client. At the end of the day, there is something that has been created. People have jobs, so you have to revive it, you know. So coming back to what you're saying, you know, they talk about the NPAs in the sector are people generally are now talking about what are the NPAs in the financial sector, and they're expecting it. Even the RBI governor has said it. They're expecting it to go to 11%. You know, it can be as high as that. But these have been odd times, Mr. Jain. But coming back to your question, I think eventually it all comes back to who is the other party you're dealing with. If it is NBFC, who are the promoters of the NBFC? Is the promoter a big daddy that if something goes wrong, that big daddy is going to come and, you know, bail them out? What are the intentions of the promoter? The promoter can be a big daddy also, but, you know, how have they behaved in the past? What is the vested interest? I think these are the things that you really need to understand before you start investing.
Does this make any sense to you?
I just had one more question, ma'am. I'm so sorry I didn't ask it.
Bolo.
Will we have more Nirav Modis and Vijay Malias with all the strictures and all reforms coming in?
Yeah.
Or is it all regulated now? Lawyers want more such people.
I have just 2 days, for the last 2 days, I have been, since I'm on the board of the bank, I'm supposed to do a course on cybersecurity. So I've been sitting through a classroom after God knows how many years of my life, right? And if you listen to them, you get so frightened. You want to put your money under your bed, you know. The cyber theft, the cyber security, and the way people across globally are going about, you know, doing things, it's so frightening. But having said that, I think, let me tell you, the systems are in place. People are very smart. Indians actually are running, you know, all the IT systems at most banks. Most of these problems actually happen internally. If your employees are the ones that, you know, sort of at most time create such problems. And that is where you have to be very careful how you handle what sort of firewalls you have, what sort of, you know, what sort of, what is the word to use, authorizations you give, how are you controlling them? I think these are some of the issues that are very important going forward. So I really think we shouldn't be scared. I think we have the best technology. We have the best brains. Unfortunately, the best brains also do all the best frauds. But having said that, there's certain things that you must also follow when you're dealing with your money or you're dealing with your assets. And I think one thing is never give in to greed.
That's whole human nature. One does.
Yeah.
But in this present time, sort of, especially being senior citizens, it's very, very valuable what to do and how to.
I know. Ma'am, I really have to tell you, मैंने आज सुन के ना मुझे भी याद आया था senior citizens अपना numbers किसी को नहीं देना, कोई phone करके बोले भी that I'm from the bank. I know everybody knows that, but even then people will do it, without thinking, because you've asked for something and somebody calls. I mean, it's amazing the way these guys intercept. And older people going, even today they were showing us how frauds at the ATMs happen, and how they are able to literally they put where they can actually copy your credit card. I mean, it was so frightening just looking at it and listening to all that. And so you just have to be very aware. You go into an ATM, like one of the things he said is, that little black thing on top of the where you put the credit card, move it and see it, where it is. Don't let anybody see when you're punching in your number, So it is difficult, but you just have to be careful.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
May I ask a question?
Ji?
Yes, Deepakji.
Renuji, this is a question I'm asking you in your capacity as more as a director and as a financial services professional. We're going through a terrible time on the economy, but the stock markets in India, after having collapsed momentarily, have bounded back like there is no tomorrow.
Yeah,
like
yesterday collapsed again.
Yeah.
Yesterday collapsed
Why are stock markets so disconnected from reality?
No, I tell you, Deepakji, the problem is who's investing? A lot of the foreigners are investing. No? Look at their economies. They still see a bright spot in India. That is the important. That is why they're doing what they're doing. And now, right now, people are sitting at home. आप कुछ खर्चा नहीं कर रहे हो, आप travel नहीं कर रहे हो, आपके पास पैसे हैं, कहाँ डालो? Stock market में डालो. That is what is happening on the domestic front. On the international front, the pension funds, the large Canadian pension funds, the European pension funds, where do you put your money in? You put your money in China. China was the darling. Now China, you're seeing what's happening to China. So the next place that they think of is India. See, our population, the fact that, we have a future in the next, 10 to 15 years, the growth is going to be here. Consumption is going to be here. And that's why these people see Indian stock market as a market to put in the money. The moment the American economy starts doing well, Deepakji, you will see, FIIs taking money out. It's a huge function of what's happening elsewhere, in India being a bright spot.
Thank you, Renuji. Thank you.
Is that the government saying that India is a bright spot, or is that in
No,
reality?
it is money talking.
Because everything seems to be down by about 50%.
No. I'm talking about the outside fellow looking at the world. Kahan paisa dalu? I have money. I have to invest. I've promised my people that I need to give money. Where do I put? China was a market where the GDP growth used to be 10, 11%. Right? I'm talking, China has its troubles or whatever. The next place they thought was India. But yes, the problem is, if we don't recover in the next, few months, we may lose that. The people will realize if the policies, and I can't talk politics here, but if they don't work out, then this, interest that is there might wane. And
So
it's not.
has the government actually worked towards making a better strategy in trying to revive this economy, because we seem to be struggling right now?
In all fairness, all governments are struggling. Who isn't, right? You talk to you see what's happening in the US. It is the most I think for centuries, nobody has seen this sort of a time. But having said that, please don't consider me, I'm neither a pro nor a anti-government. I'm actually agnostic. But as far as what they've done, see, for the SME sector, they did put out 3 lakh crores. The banks have completely disbursed that money, literally. So they have given out money. They have, forced. If I wear my cap as a finance person, I say they're forcing interest rates to come down. Interest rates have been forced to literally come down. So the government has been doing that to a great extent. I think, some of the things that they have done in the last, especially the MSME sector, even if you look at health, even if you see what they've done in the rural areas, they are working. But it's not an easy task. And of course, they can do much more.
I mean, I come from the healthcare sector, Renuji, and I just want to say that it's totally, it's an eye wash, actually. We think that things are really happening in the health sector, and things are improving, and there's better services available, but actually that is not the case. They are struggling to get tests done. They are struggling to provide the ICU beds. They are struggling to give medicines. They're struggling with literally everything. And I just don't know what this government is going to do. I mean, God help them, actually.
Yeah, that's true. But what you have, I do not, Vibhuti ji, have insights into it. I only hear what I read or what I hear over television. And I've heard both the Bombay Municipal Commissioner and Kejriwal in Delhi talk about beds going vacant. But I agree, those are not the sort of beds that many of us would like to get to. The beds that we would like to get to will be the Maxes and the Apollos and the Fortresses, which are not available. That also I know. I do work with some of these.
Please? Thank you.
Hanji, Hanji, boliye.
So
yeah?
Basically, you feel that hopefully by the first quarter, we should be seeing some kind of positivity, or even before that? Sorry to interrupt you. Based on the current signs of the industry and housing.
I think the first quarter of next year, yes, if we do not have a second wave.
But most people feel we still haven't finished with the first wave.
Exactly.
So
I know. That's it. And Vibhuti will be able to tell us much more about that.
It's still flattened.
Yeah. It's far from flattened as yet.
No, it's
and I think
rising.
Renu is also, you're muted, Renu.
Renu, you can unmute, Ji.
Up muted. I think the controller has to change it. Please, could you unmute Mrs. Gulati?
Yeah, that's what, things are tough. We don't know. It's very unpredictable right now. It's very unpredictable.
Yeah.
So we just have to wait and watch.
That's true.
Wait and watch.
They say this year is to stay alive. So
Absolutely. This year, I tell everybody, if you succeed in being alive in 21, you have done something very good about yourself.
And stay smiling, I guess that's it. Thank you so much. It's been really nice.
Thank you so much. Pleasure. Thank you. Very nice to have met you. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. And stay well, stay healthy, stay safe.
We have a vote of thanks, ma'am.
Oh, thank you.
Please don't go away.
Okay, thank you.
Rotarian J.K. Jainji, who is the head of finance of DCM Shriram and is well known in the financial market. Please kindly give a vote of thanks to our distinguished guest. J.K. Jainji, where are you?
Dear RCDGC President Mrs. Nabha, our chief guest Mrs. Renu Karnad, and the fellow Rotarians, I feel privileged to be given this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks for such an illustrious, humble and gentle personality that is Mrs. Renu Karnad. I would take a little more time to just give my impressions. Renuji is amongst the few selected women of the country who are torchbearers of women empowerment, achievement, and breaking the glass ceilings in corporate and financial world. This she has achieved through her inherent abilities and qualities, her dedication and commitment to HDFC. As you know, she has had a career of almost 42 years with HDFC, which I think in today's world is unheard of. When she joined, housing finance was a new concept when Mrs. Karnad started her career. And choosing and sticking to that kind of career during those days, to me, shows her commitment and passion to the sector. All of you would be aware that today HDFC is one of the most trusted names in the country. I would even venture to say that it is more trusted than the government of India. The credit for that actually goes to the Trimurti of HDFC, which is Mr. Parekh, Mr. Mistry, and Mrs. Karnad. The focus and commitment they have on trust, transparency, and customer service is unparalleled. I have personally dealt with HDFC and HDFC Bank, both in official capacity, and I have taken 3 loans from HDFC in personal capacity.
Thank you so much.
So I can say, based on my personal experience, that the trust, fairness, simplicity, efficient, and customer service is really unparalleled in the country.
Thank you, Jain sir.
I think even when it comes to deposit, because some of the members were asking where should they deposit the money.
I so wanted to say HDFC, but I said, nahi, wo galat baat hai.
I know, but that's why I am saying it. HDFC is the gold standard of India. I think you should go and deposit the money with HDFC, which is what I do with my money and my company.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay.
So do I agree with you, JK. Completely agree with you.
Absolutely. I wish to thank Renuji for giving such a fine institution to India and its people. I also wish to thank Renuji for taking time in spite of her multifarious commitments and share with us whatever is happening in the country in such simple terms. I think one quality I wanted to mention, which is her solution-oriented approach, and that was visible during the talk that more focus was on saying what can be done rather than what is the problem. So I think the solution approach was particularly visible here. Before I end, I just want to mention, Renuji, that I am not using these adjectives, otherwise is based on personal experience and what I hear in HDFC and outside about you. So these are genuine feedbacks and genuine things that we hear about you, and which gives a lot of pleasure to us.
Thank you so much.
So ladies and gentlemen, may I request you to let us give a big applause to Renuji for what she has given to our country and to all of us, and for spending time with us. Thank you, Renuji.
Thank you. I said you should all go back to your Friday night drinks. Cheers. Cheers.
I think we're going to have to meet our bankers on Monday to say we met your boss.
Now, on a lighter note, I want to tell you she is a committed mom and she's a committed daughter, and I know that. She's a family person, and what she does for her children and what she's done for her parents is brilliant.
Thank you, Renu. Thank you. Take care. Thank you so much. All the best. Ranjit, see you in New York sometime. My bachas are there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, Tanu. Bye, Raditya. Bye, everybody. Actually, but these are my family and my friends. So I just
yes.
Bye, Renu Gulati also. Yeah. Bye. God bless everybody. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Thank you for being there.
Thank you.
May we rise, members, for the next time. Thank you for being the members for joining and attending this wonderful session. May we rise for the national anthem. Rajiv, Rajiv, the national anthem, please.
He's on mute.
Jana Gana Mana Adhinayaka Jaya He
भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you for me this evening.
Bye.
Thank you.
All the best.
Bye-bye, everybody.